Hey, first grade. This is Miss Yeadon, and I wanted to share a read aloud with you today. This is one of my favorite books. It's called Moustache, and the author is Margie Palatini, and it's illustrated by Henry Cole. Some kids in my class have read this already, but you might not have. Moose had a problem, a horrible, hairy, prickly problem. It grew right below his nostrils and just above his upper lip. A moustache. Now, not a few spare hairs or shy little stubble. No mere weak wandering whiskers on the upper lip of this moose. No siree. Moose had a big, bushy, bristly, mighty moustache. But a moustache that was a burly, surly, mangy mess. And it itched a lot. Sure, he plucked and he tweezed, he even clipped, snipped, and teased, but his combs were still cowards, and his brushes rebelled. His scissors simply surrendered. Moose was in a frizzy tizzy. The moustache was completely crimping his style. He was a great hoofer, but he could barely bop and hip-hop with a moustache going flip-flop. One reason I love this book is the illustrations. You can see all his crazy moustache and what it's up to. He was a wonderful chef, but he simply could not flambe his souffle with all those whiskers in the way. And he was a daring skier, but how could he downhill race with the mighty moustache blowing in his face? Moose had to do something and soon, but what? After days and days of much serious thought, Moose got an idea. He crossed some hair here, he crossed some hair there, and he tied his moustache around his neck. A moose scarf seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. Ooh, I wonder if that will work for him. But then his moustache got knotted and mangled and horribly tangled. And those horrible hairs still prickled and tickled. Worse, Moose could barely take a breath with that moustache wrapped around his neck. So Moose untied, unwrapped, unknotted, and gulped in some fresh air. He got another idea. He parted some hair this way, he parted some hair that way, and he heaped all that moustache on top of his head. Moustachioed antlers seemed to be the ideal answer to his problem. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. Until a squadron of squirrels and one nosy gopher moved right into the Moose Motel. They huddled and hoarded, furrowed in, buried out. Needless to say, it became quite crowded up there on Moose's head, and heavy and messy. Ooh, I do not think I would like that if I had all those squirrels in my hair. Ooh. And very noisy. The squirrely chit-chat, squeals, and squawks woke Moose every morning before the crack of dawn. And that gopher was giving the Moose one hairy headache. Moose needed his sleep. He needed his rest. He needed his privacy. Moustachioed antlers? Nuts, said Moose. So he unparted and unpiled, untwisted and untwined, and said adios to the hairy horns. But now what? What? The miserable Moose took hold of a hunk of hair and he wrestled it, then he roped it, he tethered, tied, tamed. Aha, a moose tail. Now that was so simple. That was so easy. That was not so perfectly perfect. Talk about a dizzy do. Moose didn't know if he was coming or going. Forwards, backwards, this way, that. He didn't know which end was which. Moose had to bail on the tail. You can't even see his face. Poor Moose. And so he thought, and he thought, and he thought some more. But no other idea was a worthy winner. Braids were a bother. A moustache sweater? Too sweltering. Sweltering means too hot. Net? Not. Poor Moose. His problem was truly terrible, unbearable, just downright sad. He felt so alone, he didn't know what else to do. Then call it fate, call it destiny. It's probably just dumb luck. But one day Moose tripped on his moustache and had no time to duck. Oomph! Pardon me, they both said as they bumped. Then they blinked and they stared, and their hearts went thump thump. She was a moose with a bouffant so bodacious, outrageous, well, it's just plain old big. Hair after hair piled higher than high, a skyscraping dew of glorious curls, a tower of swirling twists and twirls. She was simply splendid, stupendous, absolutely superb. So you can see she has something in common with Moose. She doesn't have a moustache, but she has a crazy hair. Of course, Moose had to ask how she did what she did to get such a do. Miss Mook winked and then whispered, just a little glue. So she helped he fearlessly plunge a hoof into a fat pot of the white gooey goop. And carefully, oh so carefully, they glopped and they plopped, they pasted and they pressed, they coaxed and curled every truly unruly wayward whisker. Around and around they tweaked and twirled those horrible hairs until Moose's once mangy mess was now a wondrous, winding wave of marvelous moustache. Moose gazed in the mirror and smiled a big, moosey smile. He was so happy, so glad, just giddy with glee. He looked dashing and handsome. Moose gushed, is that really me? Oh, so you can see he's doing his hair here. Wonder how he's going to look. Let's see. Ooh. Not with a care for one hair, the moose pair boogied and bopped. They skied downhill, even uphill, and their cooking was hot, hot, hot. So, of course, it wasn't long after that Moose and his moustache and his beautiful bride fox-trotted and tangoed and waltzed down the aisle. Good hair days, bad hair days, they vowed to love and to cherish. And with hearts heaped with love and pots filled with goop, they both sighed, I do glue, and promised never to part. Moose found his perfect pair, his perfect lady. It was so simple, so easy, so perfectly perfect. And you can see them on a trip here to Niagara Falls. And look, oh, little baby moose. Baby moose growing up, and there's their little family. So at home, you could ask yourself a couple questions. I wonder, who's the main character of this story? The moose, right? He was our main character. And what was his big problem? He had a hard time managing his moustache. It was getting out of control. And how did his problem get solved? Let's see if I can find the illustration while you're thinking. How did his problem get solved? He met a lady moose who showed him what to do. She showed him how to use glue on his moustache. All right, friends. Well, it was nice seeing you. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. And just remember, everyone here in first grade misses you so much. All right, bye, guys.